Order, honorable members. The next speaker is the Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to take this House back, if I may, to 2019. And looking back from the winter of 2023, it can be difficult to recall what things were like back then. But if we are to chart a course away from the dangerous trajectory that our country is on, then it is essential that we establish just how we got here. So let's go back to some excerpts from President Ramaphosa's first inaugural speech, delivered almost 4 years ago to the day. And I quote, "Let us declare our shared determination that we shall end poverty in South Africa within a generation, that there should be no child that goes hungry. Every school child will be able to read, and every person who wants to work will have a reasonable opportunity to find employment. Let us build a truly non-racial society, one that belongs to all South Africans and in which all South Africans belong. It is to this brighter day that we now turn our eyes, to a vista rich with the hues of hope and promise. A new era has dawned in our country," unquote. Now, this was soaring rhetoric, to be sure. But instead of inspiring hope, as they once did, hearing these words today leaves one with an altogether different set of emotions. Despair, anger, betrayal. We now know that the New Dawn was a deceitful campaign designed to present Cyril Ramaphosa as the one thing he never was and never could be, a leader. And to be fair, the campaign worked like a charm. Millions of South Africans put their faith in Mr. Ramaphosa. The respected international magazine, The Economist, even proclaimed that, and I quote, "To stop the rot in South Africa, back Cyril Ramaphosa," unquote. But 4 years later, the president has broken every single one of the promises he made in his inaugural speech. And in fact, if we're honest, he lately barely seems interested in the job. And the meandering hour and 15 today just proves that. He's like somebody who's quiet quit a long time ago. Now, given the regurgitation of the same promises again today, let us remind ourselves of what was promised and what he did. He promised to end poverty. What he has done and what he did is increased it dramatically. He promised clean and accountable government. What he did was stuff dollars into a couch at Pala Pala. He promised that no child would go hungry. And what he did was to ban food distribution at schools during the COVID pandemic. What he did was cause child hunger to skyrocket by 50%. 1 in 3 children today goes to bed hungry. What he did was plunge South Africa into stage 6 load shedding, because corrupt cadres have to eat, after all, while the people starve. What he did caused our currency to lose over 40% of its value since he became president. He promised that every child will be able to read. And what he's done is increased illiteracy to a point where 81% of grade 4 children cannot read for meaning. What he did was spend millions of rands fumigating cockroaches in ministerial homes while our young children die in pit latrines every single day. He promised that everybody who wanted to work could get the reasonable chance of a job. What he did was increase unemployment from 10 million to 12 million. He promised as he's done again today, to tackle gender-based violence and crime. What he did is he increased the rate of murder from 57 to 76 every day, and the number of women raped in our country from 114 to 120 every single day. He promised a united, non-racial society. What he did was introduce race quotas that will cause 600,000 people to lose their jobs based only on their skin color, and which will ban entire groups from areas and provinces in our country. Speaker, Chairperson, after 4 years of deceit, it's now time for some hard truth. And that truth is that life in South Africa today is far worse for everyone than it was at the height of the Zuma years. The truth, Mr. President, is that you fooled the people of South Africa into believing that you could take our country to better days. But you are no leader, and you have shown no leadership. What you are is a confidence trickster. A confidence trickster who milked your connections to become a billionaire and then left South Africa down and in the dirt, bleeding once you were done with us. But the jig is up, Mr. President. The business people who once sang your praises can't walk away from you fast enough. The Reserve Bank that breathed a sigh of relief upon your election is now warning that your love affair with a warmonger could soon result in sanctions. Your legal advisors have told you not to challenge the Pala Pala report in the High Court ruling because they know you will lose. And on top of all of that, the EFF is busy executing a reverse takeover of your party at a municipal level. Now, we all know that today and tomorrow, you will return to the podium with red herrings like grandstanding and point scoring. But the cold, hard truth is that in the end, Mr. Ramaphosa is just another ANC cadre who's betrayed our country. There's no more space or time for us to delude ourselves into believing that some cadre in shining armor is going to come and save the country. South Africa is in a disaster today because we got carried away by empty promises. And if we're honest with each other, there never really was any concrete evidence that Mr. Ramaphosa could deliver any of the things that he promised. He made us believe because we wanted to believe. And then he mercilessly dashed our hopes. And what we need to do now is to look to hard evidence of delivery, not more of the bland and broad promises that we heard today. And we need to look at this as we choose how we go into the election next year. We need to choose deeds of delivery over worthless words. And that is precisely what my party, the Democratic Alliance, is offering the people of South Africa. And you don't have to believe our promises. You just have to believe your own eyes. Where the DA governs, we are actually lifting people out of poverty. The DA-run Western Cape has the lowest unemployment and the lowest poverty rate in the entire country. Where the DA governs, food distribution to
Order, honorable members, order.
Where the DA governs, food distribution for hungry children continued throughout lockdown, despite this government's best efforts to stop it. It's a DA that's fighting to address the cost of living crisis by calling for the cutting of fuel levies and an expansion of the basket of VAT-free basic foodstuffs. DA-run Cape Town is the first city to start meaningfully cutting load shedding. And in fact, Cape Town's infrastructure budget is now bigger than eThekwini and Johannesburg's infrastructure budget combined, with 73% of that going to be targeted at poorest residents. In the DA-run Western Cape, double as many children can read for meaning compared to the rest of the country. And we have already invested 1.2 billion rand in reversing learning losses from COVID. But you don't have to believe me. In the previous quarter, your own government's job statistics showed that 98% of all net new jobs were created in the DA-run Western Cape. The provinces run by your party accounted for just 2%. Ratings Africa confirmed that of the all top 5 municipalities in the country, including the best-run metro, are all DA-run municipalities. And just yesterday, we received the spectacular news that the DA-run Western Cape has reduced the murder rate by an unprecedented 14%, with sexual offences down 2%. Our investment is paying off. And none of these things came about by accident. In that same 2019 article endorsing Mr. Ramaphosa, The Economist had also this to say, and I quote, "The DA has the right ideas for fixing South Africa, but it is in no position to implement them," unquote. It said that because the DA then had no clear path to victory. It was better to cross our fingers and hope that Mr. Ramaphosa would fix the ANC. But this is no longer the case, because as we head into this next election, the DA, together with our partners and other parties, can indeed offer South Africans a clear pathway to victory. The parties that are already in talks account for over 35% of the votes in the last election. By working together, we can grow that extra 15 percentage points to take power nationally. In addition, a solid DA majority in the Western Cape, the packed parties are polling at 43% and 48% in Gauteng. Unlike in 2019, voters no longer need to be deceived by Mr. Ramaphosa's small talk or just hope for the best. And so to the voters who were deceived by Mr. Ramaphosa in 2019, I say, don't let him fool you twice. To the 14 million registered voters who stopped voting, it's time to take your country's future in your hands. To the 13 million more people who are not even registered to vote, I say you matter. Your voice must be heard, and your vote can save the country we love. As for Mr. Ramaphosa, to you, sir, I say, you have a great future behind you. We all know that you quite quit on us a long time ago. But next year, by standing together, united around values and principles, we can get a new government in place, a packed government that refuses to quit on South Africa and her people. I thank you.
Order, honourable members.